Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. So I'm reading again from 12.11 because my voice was cut yesterday. Um, Hare Krishna. We're reading from Canto 1, chapter 12, text 11. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Super Soul of everyone, and the protector of righteous, who stretches in all directions, and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Child Parikshit was not observing a living being who is limited by time and space. There is a gulf of difference between the Lord and the individual living being. The Lord is mentioned herein as the supreme living being and unlimited by time and space. Every living being is limited by time and space. Even though a living being is qualitatively one with the Lord, quantitatively there is a great difference between the supreme soul and the common individual. So I'll just check if I'm on mute. I'm not. Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, both the living beings and supreme beings are said to be all-pervading. Yena sarvam idam tatam. Yet there is a difference between the two kinds of all pervasiveness. A common living being or a soul can be all pervading within his own limited body. But the supreme living being is all pervading in all space and time. A common living being cannot extend its influence over another common living being by its all pervasiveness, but the supreme super soul, the personality of Godhead, is unlimitedly able to exert his influence over all places and times and over all living beings. Hare Krishna. And because he is all pervasive, unlimited by time and space, he can appear even within the womb of the mother of child Parikshit. He is mentioned herein as the protector of the righteous. Anyone who is surrendered soul unto the Supreme is righteous. Anyone who is surrendered soul unto the Supreme is righteous, and he is specifically protected by the Lord in all circumstances. The Lord is the indirect protector of the unrighteous also, for he rectifies their sins through his external potency. The Lord is mentioned herein as one who is dressed in 10 directions. This means dressed with garments on 10 sides up and down. He is present everywhere and can appear and disappear at his will from everywhere and anywhere. His disappearance from the sight of child Parikshit does not mean that he appeared on the spot from any other place. He was present there, and even after his disappearance, he was there, although invisible to the eyes of the child. This material covering of the effulgent firmament, firmament, what's firmament? Ah, Krishna. A literary term for the vault or arch of the sky. Okay. Effulgent firmament is also something like a womb of the Mother Nature, and we all put into the womb of the Lord, womb by the Lord, the Father of all living beings. He is present everywhere in the material world, material womb of Mother Durga, and those who are deserving can see the Lord. Text 12. Thereupon, when all good signs of zodiac gradually evolved, the heir apparent of Pandu, who would be exactly like him in prowess, took work. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Astronomical calculations of stellar influences upon a living being are not suppositions, but are factual. As confirmed in Srimad Bhavatam, every living being is controlled by the laws of nature at every minute, just as citizen is controlled by the influence of state. The state laws are grossly observed, but the laws of material nature, being subtle to our gross understanding, cannot be experienced grossly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, every action of life produces another reaction, which is binding upon us. And only those who are acting on behalf of Yagna, Vishnu, are not bound by reactions. Our actions are judged by the higher authorities, the agents of the Lord, and thus we are awarded bodies according to our activities. The law of nature is so subtle that every part of a body is influenced by the respective stars, and a living being obtaining his working body to fulfill his terms of imprisonment by the manipulation of such astronomical influence. A man's destiny is therefore ascertained by the birth time constellation of stars, and a factual horoscope is made by a learned astrologer. It is great science. A misuse of science does not make it useless. Maharaj Parikshit, or even the personality of Godhead, appear in certain constellation of good stars, and thus the influence is exerted upon the body thus born at an auspicious moment. The most auspicious constellation star takes place during the appearance of the Lord in this material world, and it is specifically called Jayanti, a word not to be abused for any other purposes. Maharaj Parikshit was not only a great Kshatriya emperor, but also a great devotee of the Lord. Thus, he cannot take his birth at an inauspicious moment. As a proper place and time is selected to receive the respectable personage, so also receive a personality as Maharaj Parikshit was specially cared for by the Supreme Lord. A suitable moment is chosen when all good stars assemble together to exert the influence upon the king. Thus, he took his birth just to be known as the great hero of Srimad Bhagavatam. The suitable arrangement of astral influences is never a creation of man's will, but is the arrangement of the superior management of the agency of the Supreme Lord. Of course, the arrangement is made according to the good and bad deeds of the living being. Herein lies the importance of pious acts performed by the living being. Only by pious acts can be allowed, only by pious acts can one be allowed to get good wealth, good education, beautiful features. The samskaras of the school of Sanatan Dharma, man's eternal engagement, are highly suitable for creating an atmosphere for taking advantage of the good stellar influences, and therefore Garbhadhana Samskara, or the first seedling purificatory process prescribed for the higher caste, is the beginning of all pious acts to receive a good, pious, intelligent class of men in human society. There will be peace and prosperity in the world due to good and sane population only. There is hell and disturbance only because of unwanted, insane populace addicted to sex intelligence. Text 13. King Yudhishthira, who was very satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, had the purificatory process of birth performed. Learned Brahmas headed by Dhaumya and Kripa recited auspicious hymns. Shivapad's purport. There is a need for good and intelligent class of Brahmanas who are expert in performing purificatory processes prescribed in the system Varnashrama Dharma. Unless such purificatory processes are performed, there is no possibility of good population. And in the age of Kali, population all over the world is of Shudra quality or lower for want of the purificatory process. It is not possible, however, to revive the Vedic process of purification in this age of proper facilities and good brahmanas, but there is a Pancharatrika system also recommended for this age. Pancharatrika system acts on the Shudra class of men, supposedly the population of the Kali Yuga, and it is prescribed purificatory process suitable to age and time. Such purificatory process is allowed only for spiritual upliftment and not for any other purpose. Spiritual upliftment is conditioned by higher or lower percentage. So I was here hearing a lecture where Brahmaji lost the Vedas while he was sleeping. Um, Katab, actually, the demon Katab took it, and I think that time Narada wrote the 5 night this thing, Pancharatra, so 5 nights, something like that was there. After the Garbhadhana purificatory process, there are certain other samskaras like Simon, Simanonanya, Simantonanya, Sadha Bhakshanam, etc. during the period of pregnancy. And when the child is born, the first purificatory process is Jat Karma. This was performed duly by Maharaj Yudhishthir and with the help of good and learned Brahmanas like Dhaumya, the royal priest, and Kripacharya, who was not only a priest but also a great general. Both these learned and perfect priests, assisted by other good Brahmanas, were employed by Maharaj Yudhishthir to perform the ceremony. Therefore, all the samskaras purificatory processes are not mere formalities or social functions only, but they are all for practical purposes and can be successfully performed by expert brahmanas like Dhaumya and Kripa. Such brahmanas are not only rare but also not available in this age, and therefore the Vedic purpose of spiritual upliftment in this fallen age, the Goswami preferred the purificatory process under Panchratrika formulas to Vedic rites. Kripacharya is the son of great Rishi Sardban, and was born in the family of Gautama. The birth is said to be accidental. By chance, the great Rishi Sardban met Janapadi, a famous society girl of heaven, and the Rishi discharged semen in two parts. By one part, immediately a male child, a- and by the other part, a female child were born as twins. The male child was later on known as Kripa, and the female child was known as Kripi. Maharaj Shantanu, while engaged in the chase in the jungle, picked up the children and brought them up to the Brahminical status by the proper purificatory process. Kripacharya later became a great general like Dronacharya, and his sister was married to Dronacharya. Kripacharya later on took part in the battle of Kurukshetra and joined the party of Duryodhana. Kripacharya helped kill Abhimanyu, the father of Maharaj Parikshit, but he was still held in esteem by the family of Pandavas due to being as greatest Brahmana as Dronacharya. When the Pandavas were sent to the forest after being defeated in the gambling game with Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra entrusted the Pandavas to Kripacharya for guidance. After the end of the battle, Kripacharya again became a member of Royal Assembly, and he was called during the birth of Maharaj Parikshit for recitation of auspicious Vedic hymns to make the ceremony successful. Maharaj Yudhishthir, while quitting the palace for his great departure to the Himalayas, entrusted Kripacharya with Maharaj Parikshit as his disciple, and he left home satisfied because Kripacharya is taking charge of Maharaj Parikshit. The great administrator, kings, emperors were always under the guidance of learned Brahmanas like Kripacharya, and thus were able to act properly in discharge of political responsibilities. Text 14. Upon the birth of a son, the king, who knew how, where, and when charity should be given, gave gold, land, villages, elephants, horses, and good food, grains to the Brahmanas. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Only the Brahmanas and the sannyasis are authorized to accept charity from the householders. In all the different occasions of samskaras, especially during the time of birth, marriage, and death, wealth is distributed to the Brahmanas because the Brahmanas give the highest quality of service in regard to prime necessity of humankind. The charity was substantial in the shape of gold, land, villages, horses, elephants, and food grains, and other materials for cooking complete foodstuff. The Brahmanas were not there poor, therefore poor in actual sense of the term. On the contrary, because they possessed gold, land, villages, horses, elephants, and sufficient grains, they had nothing to earn for themselves. They would simply devote themselves to the well-being of the entire society. The word tirthavit, tirthavit is significant because king knew well where and when charity has to be given. Charity is never unproductive or blind. In the Shastras, charity was offered to persons who deserves to accept charity. Okay, by a dint of spiritual enlightenment. The so-called Daridra Narayana misconception of the Supreme Lord by unauthorized person is never to be found in the Shastras as the object of charity. Important. The so-called Daridra Narayana misconception of the Supreme Lord by unauthorized person is never to be found in the Shastras as the object of charity. Nor can be wretched poor men receive much munificent charity in the way of horses, elephants, land, and religions. The conclusion is that the intelligent men of the Brahmanas specifically engaged in the service of the Lord were properly maintained without anxiety for the needs of the body, and the king and the other householder gladly looked after all their comforts. It is enjoined in the Shastras that as long as the child is joined with the mother by the navel pipe, the child is considered to be one body with the mother. But as soon as the pipe is cut, the child is separated from the mother. The purificatory process of Jat Karma is performed. The administrative demigods and past forefathers of the family come to see a newborn child, and such an occasion is specifically accepted as the proper time for distributing wealth to the right persons productively for the spiritual advancement of the society. Text 15. The learned Brahmanas, who were very satisfied with the charities of the king, addressed him as the chief amongst the Purus and informed him that his son was certainly in line of the descendants of Purus. Text 16. The Brahmanas said, the spotless son has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by an irresistible supernatural weapon. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The child, Parikshit, was saved by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Vishnu, Lord Krishna, for two reasons. The first reason is that child in the womb of the mother was spotless due to his being a pure devotee of the Lord. The second reason is that the child was the only surviving male descendants of Puru. The pious forefathers of the virtuous king Yudhishthira, the Lord wants to continue the line of pious kings to rule over the earth as his representatives for the actual process of a peaceful and prosperous life. After the battle of Kurukshetra, even up to the next generation of Maharaj Yudhishthir was annihilated, and there were none who could generate another son in the great royal family. Maharaj Parikshit was the son of Abhimanyu, was the only surviving heir apparent in the family, and by the irresistible supernatural Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama, he was forced to be annihilated. Lord Krishna is described herein as Vishnu, and this is also significant. Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, does the work of protection and annihilation in the capacity of Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. The all pervasiveness activities of the Lord are executed by him in his Vishnu feature. Amazing. Child Parikshit is described here as spotlessly white because he is an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Such unalloyed devotees of the Lord appear on the earth just to execute the mission of the Lord. The Lord desires the conditioned souls hovering in the material creation to be exclaimed to go back to home, back to Godhead, and thus he helps them by preparing the transcendental literatures like the Vedas, by seconding missionaries of saints and sages, and by deputing his representatives, the spiritual master. Such transcendental literatures, missionaries, and representatives of the Lord are spotlessly white because the contamination of material qualities cannot even touch them. They are always protected by the Lord when they are threatened with annihilation. Such foolish threats, okay, such foolish threats are made by the gross materialists. The Brahmastra, which was thrown by Ashwatthama at the child Parikshit, was certainly supernaturally powerful, and nothing of the material world could resist its force of penetration. But the all powerful Lord, who is present everywhere, within and without, could counteract it by his all powerful potency just to save a bona fide servant of the Lord and descendant of another devotee, Maharaj Yudhishthir, who was always obliged by the Lord by his causeless mercy. Text 17. Yeah, we can read that. For this reason, this child will be known as in the world as one who is protected by the personality of Godhead. Uh, Vishnu Rata. Okay, I was searching for this name. Govinda. O most fortunate one, there is no doubt that this child will become a first class devotee and will be qualified with all good qualities. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord gives protection to all living beings because he is their supreme leader. The Vedic hymns confirm that the Lord is the supreme person among the personalities. The difference between the two living beings is that one, the personality of God provides for all other living beings, and by knowing Him, one can achieve eternal peace. Katha Upanishad. Such protection is given by His different potencies to different grades of living beings. But as far as unalloyed devotees are concerned, He gives the protection personally. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit is protected from the very beginning of his appearance in the womb of his mother. And because he is specially given protection by the Lord, the indication must be concluded that the child would be first grade devotee of the Lord with all good qualities. There are three grades of devotees, namely Mahabhagavata, Madhyama Adhikari, Kanishta Adhikari. Those who go to the temple of the Lord and worship, respect the deity without sufficient knowledge in the theological science, and therefore without any respect for the devotees of the Lord, are called materialistic devotees or Kanishta Adhikari, the third grade devotees. Secondly, the devotees who are developed a mental developed a mentality of genuine service to the Lord, and who thus make friendship only with similar devotees, show favor to the neophytes, and avoid the atheists. Wow, it's amazing. Uh, Friendship with similar devotees, favor to neophytes, and avoid the atheists are so-called second-grade devotees. But those who see everything in the Lord and everything of the Lord, and also see everything as an eternal relation of the Lord, so that there is nothing within their pure view of sight except the Lord, are called Mahabhagavatas, or the first great devotee of the Lord. Let's mark this as pure devotee. Such first grade devotees of the Lord are perfect in all respects. A devotee who may be in any of these categories is automatically qualified by good qualities, and thus a Mahabhagavata devotee like Maharaj Parikshit is certainly perfect in all respects. And because Maharaj Parikshit took his birth in the family of Maharaj Yudhishthir, he is addressed herein as Mahabhagavata. Oh, what is the Mahabhagavato Mahan? Okay, or the greatest of the fortunates. The family in which a Mahabhagavata takes birth is fortunate because due to the birth of the first great devotee, the members of the family, past, present, and future, up to 100 generations, become liberated by the grace of the Lord out of the respect for his beloved devotee. Therefore, the highest benefit is turned to one's family simply by becoming an unalloyed, wow, Hari Bol, simply by becoming an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimandasya Gyananjanashila Chakshurunmitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaः. Shila Gurudev ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.